Hello and welcome to the Everyday Eurasia podcast, inspiring faith for every day. Each day we are on a journey with Jesus in our churches, our homes, our workplaces, and in so many different places around the world. Isn't it beautiful that no matter where we are, we can walk with Him every single day? Jesus is the one who connects us all and stands at the very center of our lives, day after day. Through this podcast, you'll hear voices from across the region, sharing devotionals that reminds us of God's presence in our everyday moments. This week we're joined by Linda Louw. She has been a missionary for 26 years, a mother of 4 precious daughters for 37 years, and wife to a strategic and wonderful man for 40 years. She has lived in 7 different countries on 4 different continents. She is a graduate of Point Loma Nazarene University and has at varying times been a full-time elementary teacher, mom, and pastor's wife. Linda is now pursuing ordination as an elder in the Church of the Nazarene. Her current assignment is coordinator for Advocacy for Women in Leadership on the Eurasia Region. She passionately desires that all people, especially women, are provided with opportunities to lead within the church, as lay people and as ministers.
Ruth and Naomi arrive in Bethlehem. Naomi is home, but her spirits are not revived. She is worn out physically and emotionally. When the women of Bethlehem greet her, surprised at her return, she tells them not to call her Ruth, which means pleasant, but Mara, bitter, for God has dealt bitterly with her. When she left Bethlehem, she was full, a married woman with 2 sons. Her future seemed secure. Now she has returned empty. At this moment, she might even view herself as worse than empty. As much as she loves Ruth, a foreign daughter-in-law in Judah might be a liability. She is a reminder of Naomi's unfaithfulness in making her home among foreigners and allowing her sons to marry into neighboring tribes, which God had sternly told them not to do. So here she is, running on empty and unsure of a welcome in her hometown. She blames God for her misery. However, chapter 1 ends with these words: "The barley harvest was beginning. After years of famine, the grain was ready to be harvested. Bethlehem will again be the house of bread." In those few words, Ruth found a reason to hope. According to God's law, it was mandatory that the field workers leave the borders of their fields unharvested for widows, orphans, and strangers to harvest. It was a way for the needy and destitute to provide for themselves and their families with dignity. It was in this custom that Ruth found hope, and she courageously acted upon it. There was no guarantee that this would be an easygoing thing for Ruth. Had Naomi gone with her, it might have eased her way. Through her, she might have found acceptance. 2 women, especially an older, respectable widow, might not have seemed so vulnerable or suspect. But here she was, a foreigner with foreign ways, a young woman alone and seemingly friendless. She had no idea what she would find in the fields. She hoped she would find favor, but in the day of the judges, this was a slim chance. But Ruth is determined to find a way for them. Once at the fields on the outskirts of the town, Ruth asks permission to glean, and it just happens that she finds herself in the field of Boaz. And even more surprisingly, he has also come down from Bethlehem to supervise the harvest. As a landowner, this was a job that could be done by a paid manager. And, in an even stranger turn of events, as Ruth will discover when she returns home, Boaz is a kinsman to Naomi. And, to add one more layer to the string of events, Boaz is himself the son of a foreigner, Rahab the prostitute. The God who Naomi was certain was punishing her had been at work all along. He had a purpose and a plan for this destitute widow. Boaz notices Ruth, who is waiting to speak to the owner of the field. He has heard her story, how she has left home and family to care for her mother-in-law. He charges the man to leave her alone, cautions her to stay with the other young women, and instructs her to glean even where they are currently harvesting, which is even more than the law demands. Here again we see chesed, mercy, grace, and kindness being displayed, not because he has benefited from Ruth, but because of the kind of man he was and the respect he had for the kind of woman she was. Ruth's chesed, her kindness for Naomi, called forth his own chesed and proved Yahweh's chesed. Boaz blesses Ruth in verse 12. The Lord repay you for what you have done, and a full reward be given you by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge. And Boaz continues to be their source of blessing, allowing Ruth to glean until the end of the barley and wheat harvest. The chapter began with Naomi bitter, blaming God for the harsh circumstances of her life. Ruth leaves to provide them with whatever resources are available to them. She returns home carrying hope in a basket. Naomi ends the chapter with a blessing. May he, Boaz, be blessed by the Lord, whose kindness, chesed, has not forsaken the living or the dead. Years later, the author of Lamentations in chapter 3 would echo Naomi's experience. I have forgotten what happiness is. So I say, my endurance has perished. So has my hope from the Lord. I remember my affliction and my wanderings, the wormwood and the gall. My soul continually remembers it and is bowed down within me. But this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I will hope in him. Dear Father, our hope is you alone. Sometimes we are bowed down with the weight of all of our troubles, and there seems no way out. May we be like Ruth, who saw the harvest as a reason to hope. Like her, may we seize the opportunities you place in our way. As we face each new day, remind us that we have a choice, to remember the bitterness and afflictions, or to hope in your steadfast love and your endless mercies. Amen.
Thank you for listening to the Everyday Eurasia podcast, inspiring faith for every day. For more everyday stories, subscribe on this podcast channel, follow our socials Facebook and Instagram, or our newsletter snapshots. For our newsletter and further information about the Eurasia region, visit our website eurasiaregion.org.